we're finally live. I'm so excited and nervous at the same time. So I really want to give, before we start, before all the introductions, I really want to give a huge shout out to the marketing team for making this happen today. It's going to be our first virtual live talk and we're super excited. My name is Paula. I'm a business development coordinator and also account executive for liv.rent. We are an all-in-one rental platform for renters and landlords to connect. And the most important thing about us is that we do provide verified listings from trusted landlords, which is our biggest selling point. And that's why we choose today's topic. We have here my co-host, Klaus. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Today. And the most important thing about us is that... Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sorry, my audio cut out there. Just as we were talking, we didn't have any problems before.
Yeah.
So I'm with Century 21 in Town Realty. I'm the associate broker in Vancouver, and I'm also with Century 21 Percy Folk in Toronto as a salesperson and property manager. In 2013, I set up the property management division of Century 21 in Vancouver, and I'm now trying to do the same thing here in Toronto.
Amazing. So that means that Klaus is your to-go person if you're looking for a rental property, and also if you're thinking about buying a house in either Vancouver, BC, or even Toronto as well. In today's webinar, we will be covering our top tips to avoid rental scams, which is a really important topic, especially with the holidays right around the corner. And the reason for that is because usually during this time, there is an increase in the number of fake postings. Just a little reminder for you guys, we will have a Q&A section at the end. So feel free to enter your questions in the live chat and we will make sure that we have the answers for them in the end, okay? Before we jump in, let's take a look at who we have here as an audience. So apparently we do have a lot of first-time renters in here, 29%, and also junior renters and people who have never rented before. That's really good. We're gonna have amazing tips for you guys today. But it is important for me to say that rental scams are basically everywhere. So it can occur to first-time renters, but also seasonal renters and whoever has been renting for a little while. So I think it's really important for you to have these resources under your belt. We do have some exciting news for whoever has joined us today. We will be giving you guys 3 chances to take away a $100 Visa gift card. In order for you to enter, you just need to navigate the giveaway panel on the right side of your live stream and complete the specified actions to be entered in our draw. Remember, each completed action equals to an additional raffle entry. So that means that you have up to 5 entries in our raffle draw, okay? Before we jump into the main topic, let's start with some trivia. So which statement about rental scams do you think is false? So answer that and I'll ask Klaus to give us some thoughts about those. So that means that you have up to 5 entries in our raffle draw. Okay.
Should I jump in now?
Before we jump into the main topic, let's
so
what can you say about those statements?
So I mean, with 43% of renters come across fake ads, I think that's probably very accurate. I mean, there's a lot of sites that just typically don't screen the landlords that list the listings online. Should I jump in now? The first 6 months in 2019, that 1.4 million were lost to scams. That sounds pretty good to me. I mean, it's rents are pretty expensive, deposits are pretty high, so that would probably add up to quite a bit. Third of rental scams, the victims losing over $1,000. I mean, it sounds a little low considering what rents are like in Toronto and in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But that being said, outside of Vancouver and Toronto, rents are obviously cheaper, so that would bring that down. And the older age group are most likely to be victims. I mean, most people would assume that older people aren't as tech savvy, so it might seem that that they would be easier to take advantage of. But I think that might be false just because older people have rented before, they know what to look for, what the sort of red flags are when you're looking at rentals. I think they're a bit more seasoned when it comes to that.
Yeah, exactly. So if I take a look here at what our audience thinks, we do have a lot of people thinking that over 43% of renters in North America have come across fake rental ads is the false statement. Apparently, the false one is the letter D. Older age groups are most likely to become victims to rental scams. I think young renters are actually 42% more likely to be victims, according to BBB, which is the Better Business Bureau. This is likely because they have less experience in renting. So for you guys, if you are new to renting, please make sure you take a look at all our tips. And let's just dive in. You ready, Klaus? I think young renters are actually 42% more likely to be victims, according to BBB, which is the Better Business Bureau. This is likely because they have less experience in renting. Your audio is back. Guys, if you are new to renting, please make sure you take a look at all our tips.
Sorry, what was the last question?
Let's just dive in. I asked you if you're ready to dive into the main topics, because apparently 42% of younger renters are most likely to run into any type of rental scams. So since we have most of those in our audience today, I think it's going to be really beneficial for them, right?
Sorry, what was the last question? It doesn't surprise me. It's like I said, it's the more seasoned renter.
I asked you if you're ready to dive into
especially
the main
first-time
topics,
renters.
because apparently 42% exactly. Younger renters are most likely to. So the first rental scam scenario we have here is when the listing is just too good to be true. Oh my God, this one is so common. But before we start, we want to know, what's your first red flag when you're looking at a rental listing? Make sure you vote in the poll, which is one of your tasks to be able to enter our raffle to receive the $100 Visa gift card. We will share the results later on. So this scenario usually happens when first the price is just too low, and the deal seems just too good to be true, and scammers are usually taking advantage of desperate situations, especially during the pandemic. So okay guys, before I pass it off to Klaus for tips on what you should do when you have a situation like this, let's just make sure you complete the actions on the side for additional entries in our giveaway, okay? Klaus, over to you. Do you have any tips for whoever has been, has encountered a situation like that? So, okay, guys, before I pass it off to Klaus,
big thing if something seems too good to be true usually is, so always double check the price.
Let's just make sure you complete the actions on the side for additional entries in our giveaway, okay?
Prices in the neighborhood, in the building.
Klaus, over to
you can usually
Do you have any
find other
tips
listings in the same
whoever
neighborhood.
has been,
And if it's about $100,
like
$200 cheaper, chances are it could be a scam. Look at the photos. I mean, the photos are usually pretty good. So if it's a real indication that there might be something wrong, double check the description. If it says a gas stove and you find in the pictures it's an electric stove, that happens quite often. You'll know it's a scam. Also, if the photos are blurry or poor quality, they could just be something that was scraped from another site somewhere. Poor pictures. And then do your research. Do a reverse Google searches with images. Sometimes you'll find it as a listing for sale. You can call that realtor, see if that listing is in fact a rental or whether it's just for sale. So that's really could help you in determining whether or not that's a scam. Do your research. Do your reverse
Yeah, those are actually really great advices. We do have our poll results here for the first poll. So apparently a lot of people, 80% of the audience is do think that whenever the price is too low, this is their first red flag. There is another person here saying that whenever the landlord's email address doesn't match their name in the email, that's a second red flag. Apparently, that was a really good one. A lot of people, 80% of the audience is, do you think that whenever the price is too low, this is their first red flag?
Same with phone numbers, do a reverse search.
There is another person. Great tips, Klaus. Great tips. On to our next scenario. Number 2 is when the communication seems too complicated. So if you see a like really extensive and super long email, that's definitely a red flag. And we do have another poll here. What's your preferred communication method when it comes to renting? Please let us know. So for this one here, whenever landlords or scammers pretending they are landlords, they use exaggerated listings and they try to complicate the communication. Let's say they claim that they do live abroad and cannot do a showing because of that, or whenever they provide many relevant details describing the complexity of their situation, and they do express an urgent need for a deposit. That's the most important one. And we also need to say that please be wary of scammers that try to appeal to your empathy, stating that they or a family member has a terminal illness. That's pretty common too.
Yeah, you find that especially when COVID first broke out too, we found that a lot. People were asking for cash deposits up front because they had to leave the country or they were out of the country because of COVID. So they really took advantage of that situation.
Yeah. So apparently we're having a couple of issues with our audios here. Okay, apparently it's good now. Are we good to go?
Okay.
Technical issues, we're actually joking about this. Technical issues always happen, especially if we're live. So I'm sorry about that. Bear with us. Let's continue here. So you're talking about the phone number, when the phone number is provided, right?
Yeah, if a phone number is provided, Google it, see where else it pops up. Double check the name. Make sure if there's a phone number listed online with a different name, that could be an issue as well.
Yeah, like I always say, Google is always your best friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whenever you Google someone, even if it's a small landlord, an investor, they only have one property, you might be able to find something about that on Google. Yeah. It's not about stalking, it's just about doing your due diligence.
Exactly.
Right? So do we have our poll results for your preferred communication method? I'm still waiting to hear from the marketing team about that. Apparently is phone calls. So 33% of people do prefer phone calls. And that's likely because, they'd rather just talk to a person instead of emailing or texting, because they can at least make sure they are talking to a real human.
Yeah, exactly.
And not a bot or something, right? Yeah. On to our third scam scenario, number 3, when there is a reluctance to provide the complete address or the unit number. I've seen this quite a few times. So hesitation is always suspicious. Could suggest that a property or the unit doesn't even exist or belongs to someone else. Reluctance to provide more photos and information is highly, highly suspicious. Don't you think, Klaus?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a property manager, we always provide the suite number anyways. So it's odd if somebody doesn't, because obviously you want to know what suite you're renting. So if there's any sort of reluctance to provide that information, chances are it's a scam.
That's true. Sometimes it's also really important to, I know during COVID, this is hard to do, but it is important to try and visit the place yourself. Even if you just Google the address, you will be able to see it on like Google Maps or anything like that, right?
Exactly. And then, you can always request an in-person showing. I mean, with COVID, obviously that's harder. We've switched to a lot of virtual tours. Of course, your platform provides the access to that as well. And you know, the sort of last suggestion would be that even if you've seen a virtual tour, which could also be stolen from somewhere else, you can always ask them to do a FaceTime or WhatsApp, you know, video call from the suite, and that way you can ensure that that's the actual place.
Yeah, those are actually really good tips. And I think we also need to talk about the platform you're choosing to whenever you're searching for a place, right? There are some platforms where landlords don't have to go through any verification process. They can just have an email address and they can post whatever they want. On liv.rent, we do have an extensive verification process. We analyze landlord's ID, and we also make sure that we analyze their business license and all the property documents. So they need to provide us with land titles and any other like property taxes to ensure that their properties are theirs. Or if they are representing the property, they can just send us documents showing that. So whenever you see a little verification mark on their listings, those are verified landlords, which makes you the, you know, makes it easier for you so you can trust them, right?
Absolutely. And that's, you know, once again, I mean, if you look at some of the other platforms like Kijiji or Craigslist, they don't have that step at all. And that's why you find most of the scams on Craigslist.
Exactly, unfortunately. On to our next scam scenario, we have number 4. It's also super common when there is an urgent demand for a cash deposit. So in the end, this is always what they're looking for, right? So we need to make sure that you guys know that there's no obligation to make any deposit until a lease is signed, and Klaus is going to go over those rules with us in a minute. And viewing and application fees are not legal in Canada. Also be aware that legitimate landlords and property managers do recognize that tenants might need some time to think about their decision, right? So you don't just talk to someone today and then you need to sign a lease and pay the deposit on the same day. Especially during the pandemic, it is definitely a renter's market out there. So any claims that a property is such in high demand that a deposit is required to hold it for you are likely unfounded.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, you have to make sure you know the law, know what the rules are. There's nothing that says you need to provide a deposit for applying to property or pay it up front. The deposit is only due once you've signed the lease. So that's very important to know. And take your time. I mean, review the lease, go through it, make sure everything is, you know, to your liking. You can always communicate with the property manager. And then after that's signed, then you typically pay the deposit at that point. And legally in BC, it's half a month's rent. So if anyone asks for more, that's also not according to the rules. We've seen that before. And in Ontario, there's no damage deposit per se, but it's you pay first and last month's rent up front. So it's a big chunk.
Yeah. And it's definitely super crucial for renters to be informed before they even start looking for a place, especially first-time renters, young renters who have not, you know, had any type of experience in renting before. We do have some great rental resources on the liv.rent blog, so please make sure you take a look at those before you start your search. On to our next skin scenario, number 5, when too much information is requested. I find that this is also very common. Usually renters are like a little bit more aware in terms of not giving out the information, but sometimes they feel like the landlords are pushing out too much, so they ended up doing it. But just to make sure, you're under no obligation to share contact information, SIN number, credit card, or even bank account information with a prospective landlord until you decide you're going to be moving forward to the lease, right? And once you do decide on a property, the landlord may ask you to show the bank statements, letter from employment, but your SIN number, again, is never required. They can ask, but it's not required.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And people, should realize that. I mean, the landlord can ask for anything they want to ask. That doesn't mean you have to provide any of that information. Most applications out there with property management companies, they will ask for a social insurance number, but it always says optional. So always keep that in mind. You do not have to provide it. It goes to your lawyer and it goes to your banker. That's pretty much it. And any other information, if you're not comfortable providing some information, just bank statements especially, see if you can provide that in person and just show it to them. You don't have to just email it to a stranger over email. It's irresponsible. I mean, if you're using a service like liv.rent where you can upload the information, that way, I mean, the landlord actually can't download it either. They just look at it, so you're assured some safety there as well. And it's just due diligence, and it falls on both sides. I mean, obviously the landlord is wanting to make sure that they have the right tenant, but the tenant also has to make sure that they have the right landlord that respects their privacy as well.
Yes. Going back to your point about email, I feel like it's really important for tenants to understand what are the best mediums to send sensitive information. So on liv.rent, we do use military grade standard encryption to make sure your documents are secured. And that doesn't happen with like emails or texting where most of the information, most of the documents are just out there available on the internet. So please make sure you use the perfect platform that can keep your documents secured. Now, before we move into our last set of tips, make sure you do submit any questions you may have in the live chat. We will be answering them afterwards, okay, during the QA session. As we head into the last scam scenario, we want to know, out of everything we've covered today, which rental scam scenario have you run into before? Just a little reminder, this is also your last chance to enter a raffle, as our contest will be closing during our QA session. Now on to our last scam scenario, when the landlord is too eager to sign the lease. So as I was talking to you before, like when the landlord needs to do like everything, deposit, lease, signature, applications, everything within a day. So responsible landlords will typically want to verify your information, particularly your employment, credit score, but also conduct references checks. And this definitely takes time, right? So if a landlord seems too eager to skip the screening process and move ahead to deposit collection and contract signing, this might be a red flag, right, Klaus?
Exactly. And so, I mean, for us, I mean, we try to be as quick as possible with the turnaround to approve a tenant, especially in this market. But you do have to realize it's a minimum of 24 hours, especially if it's on a weekend. If you're applying, we may not be able to get a hold of any landlord references on the weekend. A lot of property managers don't work in their offices on Sundays, so you can't get a hold of anybody. And same for work references. We may not be able to get a hold of somebody in your HR department because they're closed till Monday morning. So definitely, if somebody's trying to rush it, it's not a good thing. You might want to rethink your whole situation with that specific landlord and the information that you provide to them.
Exactly. So according to our audience, what people have run into before was an urgent demand for a cash deposit, 40% of people. So I guess that's the most common one, because I think scammers also don't want to waste time. So they just keep asking for deposits, whoever pays it. Exactly. That's very good, right? And Joyce from our audience said, thanks for the tips. Also, sweet Joyce. You didn't know that application fees were not legal in Canada. Yes, they are not legal. And usually those come from scammers. So please be aware of that. And going back to what Klaus says, liv.rent has more than 3,000 verified listings for you to choose from. So please make sure you apply your preferred filters on our website and you pick the listings from trusted landlords, so you don't have to go through all of those, all of that hassle, right? So this actually wraps up our top tips today, as well as our raffle period. So we do have the poll results for the rental scam scenario. So it was like the urgent demand for a cash deposit, but we also had a lot of people where were encountering cheap prices, like the too good to be true scam, right? So cheap listings, let's say you're in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, one bedroom apartment fully furnished with all the amenities and utilities included for $950. Or in Toronto, $1,000 for a two bedroom with everything included, right? Too good to be true. That's a camera.
I would rent that myself if that was true.
Me too, right?
Yeah, I guess we should
if you missed any of our tips, we will be sending our viewers a one-pager summarizing everything and all the different scam scenarios and how you can protect yourself. And now we'll be diving into our Q&A section. So if you have any questions, Klaus and I will be happy to answer them. And then after that, we will be announcing the 3 winners who are gonna win the $100 gift card. So we do have our first question here. What should I do if I get scammed? That's an incredible question.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, the number one thing you should do is report it to the police. The VPD in Vancouver is very active at investigating scams. Same with the RCMP across Canada and the Toronto Police Department in Toronto. The problem is that you may not be able to get your money back. So that's the downside, but you do need to report it just so that they investigate and hopefully would catch these people.
Yeah, we're also talking behind the scenes about PayPal. So it is quite common that scammers ask you for a deposit via PayPal. And sometimes we know people who are able to actually get the money back via PayPal. So if that happens to you, you might be able to go through PayPal, but always go to the police first, of course. Yeah. We have another question here from Agnard. Is it possible for me to find a rent about $300 per month? So Anna, that's an amazing question as well. So unfortunately, it's very sad for me to say that, but I would say no, it's not realistic. And the reason is because the average rent for a one bedroom in Vancouver is at about a little bit less than $2,000, an average $1,800. If you're willing to share a place with someone, you might be able to find something around $700 or $850, around that. If you're willing to go, a little bit far, like let's say Surrey or a place that is like not very close to the SkyTrain station, you might be able to find even a room for $500. I think that's very possible. But $300, I would say that it's just a little bit unrealistic, right?
Absolutely. I don't think I've ever seen that in the last 10 years.
Yes. Maybe one day we're going to be going back to that, hopefully.
Who knows?
We have another question from Enzo. I'm moving to Canada in next October with my family. When should I start looking for a place? Is it too early and it can be hard to secure a place right now? What are your thoughts, Klaus?
Yeah, it's definitely too early. Depending where you're moving to in Canada, if you're moving to Toronto, you would want to look 2 to 3 months before your arrival. If you're moving to Vancouver, usually it's about a 45-day window.
Yes.
Because it's a 30-day notice period for people to vacate in Vancouver. So it's there's absolutely no sense in looking right now. So I would look in end of August, in September, you want to be looking for a place.
Yeah, usually if you go to the rental platforms where you can find listings, you will be able to see listings available right now or 1 month from now. So that's your like either 30 days or 45-day window that Klaus was talking about.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind too, and of course as a foreigner you wouldn't know that, is the empty home tax in Vancouver. So people have to rent their places out. If they sit empty for more than 6 months, they have to pay a tax. Therefore, nobody can keep a place vacant for a few months to wait for you to become a tenant. They need to rent it out as soon as possible.
Yeah. So Azevedo is following me up here on finding a rent for $300, and he said that he saw some for $900. So again, as we were discussing about the too good to be true, there are, yes, for sure, you will be able to find, let's say, basements or small units for lower prices in areas such as Surrey, maybe Coquitlam, Langley, everything, far away, or even like a little bit the places that are not too close to the SkyTrain, transit, and whatnot. But for a room, that's very realistic. So if you see a room for $900, that's a pretty good, and realistic price.
Yeah, I would agree. If it's for shared accommodation, 900 is reasonable. If it's for home apartments, then definitely not.
Yeah. Olivia also has a question here. If my budget is around 200, where is a good place to raise a family? My children are around, she fixed herself, so $2,000. She has a family, and her children are around 7 and 10, and is utility usually included in rent? So the first one is $2,000. Where is a good place for her to find a rent? And are the utilities usually included in the rent? For $2,000, I would say that if you do have two children, you might need a 2-bedroom apartment or even a 3-bedroom apartment. For 2,000, I think a 2-bedroom is you can easily find it in either like Burnaby, New Westminster if you are in BC, as well as Surrey. How about Ontario, Klaus?
Ontario, it's outside of Toronto. So if you're going down towards London, Cambridge, even St. Catharines is quite reasonable. Yeah, for sure. The average rent for 2 bedrooms here is definitely a bit higher. In downtown Toronto, you're looking, $2,500 for entry-level 2 bedrooms.
Yeah. And are the utilities usually included in the rent?
That depends. So if it's an older rental building, water might be, water is usually included, I should say, but the older buildings might have hot water heating, which means that the heat would be included. Typically, newer buildings have electric heat, which would then not be included. So that's something you would be responsible for. If the building has gas for gas heating and gas stoves, typically that would be included, but that's something you need to double check. In some of the newer buildings, they now have separate gas meters, and the tenant will pay for that. So it depends on the age of the building, really.
Yeah. There was a last question here from Arvind. How can I verify if a landlord property manager is licensed in BC? So here is a good point about the liv.rent platform. You are able to actually see on landlord's profile if they have been business license verified. So you don't have to go to Google and search that. There will be a little icon that says if they're verified or not. Apart from liv.rent, you can always Google and look for a business license in BC. And you will be able to type your either the landlord or the property management company in there and check for their business license.
Yeah.
How does it work in Ontario?
Yeah, it's about the real estate board requires everyone to be licensed in both BC and in Ontario. And the licenses in Ontario, you have to be able to present your license if you're asked. So we always carry it with ourselves. In British Columbia, you can contact the Real Estate Council or the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver if you're looking in Vancouver, and just to verify that somebody is actually a member of that organization and licensed.
Oh, those are great tips. Thank you. There was another question from Arvinard. Do scams still happen after a rental agreement has been signed?
Yeah, this is a tough one, and I think we had this conversation before. This was a few years ago. We rented to somebody, and the story they told me was that they had fell for a scam. They showed up on moving day with a moving truck to a place that they thought they had rented, because they paid the deposit and signed a lease. And two other people were there with their moving trucks as well, trying to move into the same building.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so they were scrambling to find a new place. So some people do carry it very far. They make up a fake lease, obviously, and get you to sign it to collect the damage deposits or whatever monies they're collecting, and then disappear.
Yeah. That also means that even like experienced renters need to, be aware of all those situations because, to be honest, scammers are getting smarter, and that means they literally come up with new ways to scam people like every day, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in Vancouver itself, because you have to pre-book your elevators, it's always a good idea once you sign the lease to get the information for the concierge or building manager, and then
Oh, that's a great tip.
contact the concierge or the building manager to book your elevator for the move-in. They will be the first ones to tell you that that apartment was not rented out.
True that.
Yeah, because so that's probably the best way to protect yourself if it's a residential building. If it's unfortunately a basement suite or something, it's very difficult.
It's a little bit harder to tell. There was another question. Are the rental prices available on liv.rent, including all administration fees, utilities, strata, etc.? So yes, on liv.rent, you can see all extra fees. We usually ask landlords to provide the monthly rent. That's completely mandatory. They cannot do like either free or $1 as they can do on Craigslist. And for parking and storage, they can add the rent amount in there. So let's say the parking is included, but there is a fee, like $100 fee, you will be able to see that. And for utilities, it is the same. Even if it's a shared accommodation, you will be able to see if the utilities are shared, how much you're gonna pay, the percentage, and all of that. And that was our last question. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to send us via email. We will be giving our information out. You can always message us through social media as well and all of that. So we make sure that every single question has been answered. We are now going to be announcing our 3 winners. So I believe the marketing team is double checking all of that, but let's see. Okay, so we do have the names right now. Are you guys excited? I'm excited. So Avenard Gerimano is the first winner. Congratulations, $100 for you to spend on everything you want. Christmas just around the corner. Just go to Amazon and buy everything you need. Also Lauren Dormer. Congratulations, Lauren. And also Stephanie Seraphin. Yay, this is so exciting. Congratulations, everyone. Our team will be in touch with you guys to arrange a way for you guys to pick up your prizes. Thank you so much for tuning in. A special thanks to Klaus for being our lovely co-host today. Please let us know where can people find you if you're looking for a place to rent, if you're looking for a place to buy.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me online at klausrode.ca. That's KLAUSRODE.ca, or the new website rentwithklaus.com or rentwithklaus.ca.
Awesome. You should be able to see a little pop-up down here where you can just click and go to Klaus' website. And please also make sure you subscribe to us, liv.rent, if you haven't already, as we will be hosting more live streams events in the future with some more exciting prizes. Thank you so much for everything, and have a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you, Klaus.
Thank you.